Return to the Garden Report.
We're
Let's
back,
go.
bitches.
We are doing it. I don't care if there's 5 of you or 5,000 of you. We're hanging out. We're doing a show here. Jimmy Toscano, Bobby Manning, Josue Pavone. The band is back together. Sherrod Blakely not here. He has something very cool in store. I'll tell you guys about it later. But as far as we're concerned, our cup runneth over, okay, with sponsors. I got to say,
I'm swimming in it, literally.
That's a pretty nice sweatshirt you're wearing there, Josue Pavone.
Yes, sir.
Jimmy Toscano, Bobby Manning.
told us about this a long time ago.
I had to go with the black here, the matte black finish here.
We're all rocking the Legends gear. Legends.
Thank you, Legends. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Honestly, not even saying this because they're a sponsor. So comfortable. This is like rivals like my Lulu sweatshirts and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. I wear Lulu.
Yeah.
But I'd rather wear Legends. Honestly, I'm switching to Legends now because this is awesome.
Dude, it's awesome.
Bobby got the camo. I like that.
Bobby got the camo.
Oh, I didn't even know Bobby was. I didn't even see Bobby.
Yep, this is the one I dreamt of, and it arrived.
Bobby's rocking
Dreams
the camo.
came true.
The white camo. He's just flexing.
Camo. That's like a Call of Duty classic. That was always the kind of camo you were going for.
Bobby's rocking the camo. We'll tell you guys, Legends brand. It's no joke. It's comfy. I've been wearing this all day. It was a humid day. I've been wearing this all day. Legends.com. Use the code GARDEN20. Save 20 on your first order. And like I said, it's slow time of year, but our cup runneth over with sponsors. We're also brought to you by Raycon. Raycon. Go to raycon.com/garden. Receive 15% off your next purchase.
Go to buyraycon.com. Buyraycon.com.
Yeah. Buyraycon.com/garden. 15% off your next purchase for these awesome earbuds.
Wait, you got earbuds?
We all get them.
I didn't get earbuds. I'm getting Raycon on the horn.
So check that out. But we are getting ready for the Celtics training camp, NBA opening up September 28th. For those Seinfeld fans out there, you're asking what's this show about? It's a show about nothing, okay? Nothing, okay?
This is a show about a show.
This is a show.
A few things.
This is a show about nothing.
We got more going on than you guys think.
Are people asking us that in the comments?
There is.
What's the point of this show?
There's always something.
What is the point of this podcast?
There was a great trade last week. We didn't even get to hit on that.
We will hit on the great trade for sure.
Great trade.
Yes.
There was a couple things, but I think it was the Kornet signing that made us say, all right, we have to do a show.
Oh, yeah, we almost went live minutes after that happened.
We almost went live. And we're
I
not
don't know how I didn't get that breaking news. Come on. They couldn't have thrown me a bone on that one.
That's true. What the hell?
If there was anything, I should have been breaking it.
You haven't been sliding in enough, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's your hint, right?
I guess I lost the shoe in over there.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
that's
it's
true.
About pizza. It's a show about pizza and pickles and complaining.
Yeah. Reaction.
And Tatum went after Tatum.
This is day one right there.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone else who that was going after except John.
What?
Tatum's comments on Twitter there the other day.
Oh, so Bobby can't get over
it.
This.
Away. Who else would it be? That's got to be John.
Bobby thinks Tatum's got the CLNS.
This is what athletes do. This is what athletes do.
Out.
They come up with these, woe is me type, me against the world type. This is what they do. This is how they pump themselves up. I'm fine with it. You got to pump yourself up. You got to get yourself going when you're, in the gym. And, we talked about John. John did a 20-minute segment on Jack's Tatum. I don't think he's coming at John.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we did.
Favorite segment he's ever done.
Jack's Tatum.
That's what that is. He's getting pumped up in his gym. He's getting on Twitter.
I think that was
going. This is prime off-season mode right now.
Those were camera tricks. That's like
those were incredible camera action. That's brilliant work by the photographer.
I have one buddy.
I need those tricks.
I know what he looks like in real life. And there's one and there's one picture of him where everything hit him right. He was at a pool in Vegas and he turns and he flexes and he's looking here and he looks like the most jacked dude I've ever seen. And I was like, He's like, honestly, it's the best picture taken of me my entire life. He doesn't look anything like that.
It was like 20 years ago. Yeah, it's an all.
Something's going on with Tatum there.
It's all his dating profile pictures. It's like everything, like it's like the media members. They got the lanyard with a picture from like 1972 on there.
Yeah, that stuff wasn't real. Someone said I'm looking youthful. I like that. I cut the hair.
It's the legends. It's the legends.
And the legends.
I think it's the hoodie.
And the hoodie.
It could be, like you shaved a little bit. Maybe you've got a little color.
Who knows? The haircut helps.
The Greek freak. The haircut does help.
It reduces some of the gray, gangly, stuff here for sure.
You toss a little color in there too. You ever do that?
Can't do it.
Just going for the gray wolf. Just
whatever happens, happens, Jimmy. Whatever happens, happens.
That's fine.
Not
going to affect me one bit.
I respect it. John's going with the flow. He goes with the flow. I like it.
What happens, happens. So we are going to talk about some stuff. There's a few bit of news items that happen. We're going to kick around some Celtics questions that are going on here. Hell, I'll give Bobby first crack at things here, okay? And we will let Bobby go ahead and tell us why Brad Stevens did it again.
Look at that wallpaper over there, Bob. What do you got going on behind you over there?
This is a throwback. Yeah, this must have been my childhood room.
Jimmy, what do you got going on back there? Look like you're in a cabin somewhere.
Jimmy's more than ready to talk about what's going on there.
We had some news. Luke Kornet and Juwan Morgan. I'm gonna make sure my fantasy lineups are set, and Bobby's gonna talk about these guys. Okay, go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah, Bob, tell us what.
So I don't know what's gonna happen with Juwan Morgan. That's one of those training camp things. But Luke Kornet coming back on a G League contract.
Whoa,
you guys are laughing.
Deal. What a deal!
This is a guy who started 2 games for the Celtics last year. Was right in the thick of the rotation, and now you have him basically in the taco role as that reserve center. If anything happens, if they get a cut bait, if they get a trade a 2-for-1, he can step right into the roster and be your depth center. And last year he was the backup at certain points. He was the third string at other times. And all you're basically paying him in this kind of deal is like $50,000. So, I mean, you guys were laughing. I said it was a great deal. This is about as great as you can think. This guy's a real NBA player, and they got him on a G League contract.
So let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. What makes him a real NBA player if he doesn't have a real contract? What qualifies him as an NBA player when he wasn't signed by anybody up until this point? We're 2 weeks from training camp.
Capable player, I guess, based on recent history. But
he showed, capability on defense.
He did pretty much completely fall out of the rotation. We didn't see him in the playoffs. I understand it's a G League contract and that's cool and good for Kornet. Seems like a great guy. I know Bobby's part of the family over there, but if he's the taco role, then you really don't.
He's the new taco,
right? You really don't want to see him. Then is that fair? I mean, aside from me, I don't know anyone who wanted to see Taco on the court last year. I hope that he does well.
That was the other news. Taco going to Cleveland.
Yeah, I hope he does. I hope he crushes it there. I hope he becomes an all-star there because I thought the Celtics should have tried him out more. But anyways, all that aside, Kornet if he's taking on that role, it's a fine deal. There's zero risk to it. He's familiar.
They're even making up contracts. Exhibit 10 deal's not a real thing.
I didn't know what that was.
It's not a real thing.
Come on, John. You heard
that's a Zarin special. Zarin found that on page 400 of this.
That's not a real thing.
Every other team's we could have done that.
No, but it's a good point, John. I am very surprised. I'm very surprised no other team.
Nothing against him. He was a revelation, Bobby. I'm not.
Nothing at all.
Kornet did nothing to us. Okay.
So here's the only thing I can
think as a guy who was supposed to get cut, and Wagner was supposed to get the minutes in that Tice trade, and he was clearly the more valuable guy. He played some defense. He was able to hit shots from outside, and Wagner, who had the better pedigree, was expendable. And Kornet actually ate some minutes. He did nothing to us for real, but he did sit there unsigned this entire offseason.
So
fake deal.
Yeah. Go ahead, Josue.
But John, you got to remember this is Brad's guy, right? I mean, and I know we say that about a lot of players, a lot of prospects out there that you can say that the same about. But he was gushing over this guy after his debut, and then he had another for 13 minutes. The same amount of minutes he had in his debut, had another impressive performance So for him in this role, for the new Taco role, I like that. I think I prefer him over Taco in that role. You know, because of what he gives you on both ends of the floor. And that's especially defending the pick and roll. And what is he, 27, 26? Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
That's not a bad spot to have a guy like that at the end of your bench.
No, I mean, I agree with you guys.
No, and you're right, Jimmy. If I had to say an over-under on games for he played this year in Boston for him, I'd say 0. Like, I think they have that many centers in the roster. But like we're saying, in an emergency situation, you lose 2 guys to injury.
Yeah. COVID, I mean, who knows? COVID could sweep through the locker room or something, and
all of a sudden you give him a 10-day deal. Yeah. Now, that Exhibit 10, I still think he's going to be in a position where if another opportunity comes up, he'll be able to pretty easily get out of Maine. I think he's just going to stay like 60 days in Maine to make the entirety of that contract. So he'll be able to get out of that pretty easily. But like this does kind of bring me back to that interview I had with Nicole, because she said that, you know, their dad obviously played in the NBA. To that.
It all goes back to Nicole.
Their dad played in the NBA. He was in Milwaukee for 2 years. Then he signed a
yeah, for real, it really is.
He signed a deal in Italy, and he I guess his dad like was always kicking himself, saying if I just stayed close to the NBA, I would have had a much longer career in it. So I'm sure Luke had some prospects overseas, but he said I want to stay like in NBA circles and, you know, not become pigeonholed as an overseas player at this point. So that's what I'd imagine happened there. He's a couple years into his career, so I think at some point you can't sign a 2-way deal anymore. I think that's reserved for players that are within a certain span to start.
Hence the Exhibit 10 deal.
Yeah, so this is kind of another way to do a 2-way deal, I guess, if they really end up needing him. But I don't think they will. So we'll have to go up to Portland to go see him, I guess, this year. The Maine Celtics.
We will have to go.
Right.
We'll take we'll take the train up there from the north.
You drive, just honk. It'll be like the scene in friggin' Good Will Hunting. When I don't come to the door, you know to just keep driving.
Yeah. We'll be like, John made
not there.
He finally made it.
He's like, yeah. I guess I just gotta go. Just I've gone to do something else. Okay.
Jimmy grabs shotgun. He hops out the back.
Yeah. I think Luke will enjoy Maine.
Casey Affleck gets the shotgun.
Yeah. That's Jimmy Casey.
My daughter made pudding.
Bobby's like, what the heck are you guys talking about?
I do want to.
Yeah. Bob, have you ever seen Good Will Hunting?
I've seen that movie.
Just lie to us.
I haven't seen a lot of movies, but I've seen that one. But I'm just throwing it back to you guys. First, what are we saying here? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games in a Celtics uniform. 1 block, 1 block, 1 block, 1 block, 3 blocks, 4 blocks. Boy. He was blocking shots like crazy to start.
Cue up the per 36.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Bob.
His per 36.
I'm just teasing.
His per 36 for those first 7 games must have been outstanding. Remember, he led that comeback against the Thunder when John fell in love with Moses Brown. That's who he was, the real star of that game.
They didn't have the scouting report on him at that point. And then once he played a few games, they figured him out. They started game planning for Kornet, and then they kind of took him out of his game.
Yeah.
Now he's back.
We've spent as much time as we're going to spend all year on Kornet, but I want to give Bobby his shot here. Beyond that, other news: Paul Pierce entering the Basketball Hall of Fame. One of Joe Sway's and Jimmy's guys here.
Yes, sir. High school right there. High school.
We're not talking about Paul Pierce. We're not talking about Paul Pierce Hall of Fame credentials or his place in Celtics history.
At the top.
Whatever.
Both.
We can debate. But we're not going to do that.
Bill.
No, we're talking about Paul Pierce just doesn't give a F.
He sure doesn't.
And he
never has.
I cannot wait for his speech.
We need to get him as a star.
I don't like when Paul Pierce was talking. I thought one of the worst speeches ever delivered to a crowd was Paul Pierce's speech in 2009 after they won the title, when it was like, he just went out there and he was like, me, I did it, I stayed here and I won. It was so bad. And I think he's bad on ESPN, but man, unfiltered, Paul Pierce is great. I want this Paul Pierce now and forever.
There's a podcast coming apparently.
Yes, I cannot wait.
Yeah, I hope it's on CLNS.
He just let it fly. I loved it.
That's Pierce. I mean, he's never really cared First of all, Pierce has always been slighted from the very, very beginning of his career.
Exactly.
He's always had a chip on his shoulder. He's always been ignored by the national media, and maybe that's why he wanted so badly to become a member of the national media, just so he could give it back a little bit. But you know what? You can't take anything away from Paul Pierce, what he's done on the court. You don't have to like him off the court, and I'm kind of with you there, John. I never thought he was that great on TV. I think he tries to nudge people like purposely. He tries to like be a bit of a troll. I never would have thought that Kendrick Perkins would have been better than Paul Pierce on TV. I can tell you that.
Great quote here, by the way, but yeah.
That was an unreal quote. I actually tweeted that one out. I mean, those were the glory days for us miserable Celtics fans, like the Yuri Welsh. Like
he pinpoint the exact year. Yeah.
Can
I tell my Yuri Welsh story?
Please do.
Oh, you got a Yuri Welsh story? Or
yeah. So I was with my girlfriend, now wife, and we were in the Atrium Mall. Not the Atrium. The what's the one in Chestnut Hill? The Atrium, right?
Watertown. The one in Watertown, you mean?
Not the Watertown. The fancy one in Chestnut Hill that they'd put up that was really like had like the high-end shops.
I don't sniff Chestnut Hill.
Yeah, the Atrium. It was called the Atrium.
Atrium, yeah, where Cheesecake Factory used to be.
And I was walking around. We were on the upper floor, and we had left J. Crew and returned to the corner. We walked into a Gap, and then we walked out, and walking right by me was Yuri Welsh. He had signed like a day or two earlier, and I just screamed it. I was so excited. I was like, Yuri, welcome to Boston. And he was terrified. He was like, what the F? And like shied away from me. And my girlfriend was like, dude, chill out. And,
dude, it's Yuri Welsh. You should chill out.
Welsh. I was like, he's here.
He's here, and then he was gone. Just like
hanging out with us. Danny loved him. He wore Danny's number because he was comparing his shot to Danny's, and he was going to be great. Man, the stuff we used to get excited about back then. We were excited about Yuri Welsh.
Well, hold on, John. You're not telling the whole story here. He had like one or two breakout games, and that's what got the whole thing started, right? But then after that, it fizzled out.
He can shoot,
of course.
The greatest thing Yuri Welsh ever contributed to the Celtics, I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain that there's a long string of transactions that go from Yuri Welsh to Rajon Rondo. I think that's true. So
is that how we got there?
They did need Yuri Welsh to end up with Rondo. And Rondo was instrumental in the championship. So theoretically, Yuri Welsh could have himself a ring if,
Yeah. But among the things Pierce said, I actually thought that Yuri Welsh, like, okay, he set fire to ESPN, fine. They've come under fire for a million different things.
Yeah.
And that is what it is. The stuff he said about his viral video, great. Calling out hypocrites. I'm a single guy. I'm having fun. I'm living my life. I didn't do anything you guys aren't doing. And trust, you guys are doing way worse. So you can not like it. That's fine. But don't be moral police if you're out there. And I know who you are, what you're doing. Don't freaking wag your finger at me. Right.
It's up to me.
But the Yuri Welsh
I think I actually saw Joe Sway in that Pierce video. He's in the back, but go on.
The Yuri Welsh one, I think,
single vibes.
Yeah, I talked about this with Sherrod on a different show, but the Yuri Welsh applies a little bit to the Tatum Brown situation and the way they were criticized last year by us, by me, by fans. And we went back and forth on this, and it applies. They won't pass more. They're not involving their teammates. And then there would be another school that would say, who are they supposed to pass to? Very similar to what Pierce was saying with the Yuri Welsh thing. Kind of makes me think like, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, Tatum and Brown are giving their Hall of Fame speeches, and they're like, who was I supposed to pass to? Freaking Semi? Like
Grant?
They're not going to do Semi.
And if they said that, would we be like, yeah, they're right.
It's kind of like an inverse though, because you had the championship roster set up at the beginning of their career, and then it devolved into the semis and Grants and Romeos of the world, within the recent few years. So that is kind of the inverse you're looking at there. You almost wonder if there is ever going to be a day where a glory day level in Boston's going to be what it was in 18-19 at that point. Those might have been the best chances they ever had in terms of a roster construction to win one here, where Pierce had to wade through those.
But also, though, and I'm sure, John, you'll agree with me on this, but Paul's a little naive in those years, right? Like the 2002 run was great. We'll never forget that run, and Antoine Walker, getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. No one thought that they would get that far.
Come back against the Nets.
Paul was convinced that they were, quote unquote, one piece away. I just didn't see any way, looking back on it, right? I didn't see any other way where the Celtics could add to that team and go up against the Lakers and actually legitimately be a
you knew that team's ceiling was conference finals.
Right, exactly. And
not even that. Losing in the conference finals was that team's ceiling. Losing in the conference finals,
right?
Right. Sure. I didn't agree with the Vin Baker move and all that. There was some moves that shouldn't have happened. But when Danny Ainge came in and said, "Look, I need to blow this team up," Paul was sort of like, "Okay, well, wait a minute here. Am I part of that, or am I part of the future? But if I am part of the future, how long are we going to take? Because we were just in the Eastern Conference. Like, okay, Paul, I know, but trust me, that team wasn't going to get much farther than that."
Yep.
So what was the other part of the story? A near trade to Dallas? I didn't get deep into that whole thing.
The Nowitzki stuff was about that Danny thought he had it done, and that it ended up, he went earlier, and then he got traded, and it just really caught them. I mean, not Danny, Patino. Caught him off.
Oh, you're talking about the draft. Gotcha.
No. Bobby's talking about him when he said, "Look, if you're gonna trade me anywhere, send me to Dallas." He's talking about when Pierce was like, "Look,
Cuban said they had a deal."
I thought you meant the draft.
No,
yeah. So
Cuban came on Twitter and said that they had a deal done for Pierce, and I couldn't really pinpoint exactly when it was. He said after 2008, which didn't make any sense to me because that was after they won the title. Right?
No, it wasn't then. It was right before they got KG and Ray.
Cuban said I figured.
They had a deal in place, and the third team backed out because they found out the Celtics were getting like a first-round pick back, and they didn't want the Celtics to get the pick, so they backed out completely. But before that, it was like Patino thought they were getting Dirk, and then Dirk ended up going right before them, and Pierce, for whatever reasons, just slipped all the way to 10. Pierce thought he was going to be like a top 3. Draft picks. So they just took Pierce blindly. They didn't even really.
I love how honest Patino was. He was like, "I knew nothing about Paul Pierce."
No research.
Checks out. Yeah.
You didn't know about it. At least one's going to be projected to be a top 5.
The head of the whole program.
Job, right.
Meanwhile, now you probably, even if you have the first pick, you probably have to know who like the 80th guy is. Like
you should know about Paul Pierce, right?
Yeah.
But honestly, though. Good. I know there's a lot of Pierce haters out there. You won't find any. I don't think you'll find any in this video unless John is. I mean, he very well could be, but
I'm not a Pierce hater.
I thought Mannix did a great job of highlight. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I've never been a Pierce hater. I always thought we rewrote a little bit of Pierce history post 2008 and glossed over some of the other stuff leading up to it, and also. I think because of his longevity, he's viewed as the head of that team. And the head of that team is obviously Kevin Garnett. To me, the 2008 championship is 80% Garnett, and then everybody else. Without Garnett,
so defense is the centerpiece.
No, Garnett. You're talking about culture.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, okay, the culture. Yeah,
you talk about defense.
KG wasn't going toe to toe with LeBron.
I'm telling you this.
Toe-to-toe with Kobe.
That's not what I'm saying.
Preach.
Any Kevin Garnett level talent that they brought in, and that team doesn't win with Pierce as their leader. You needed Garnett to make that team what it was.
We're not saying that. Well, obviously he did.
He anchored the culture, but when it came to being the executor,
I think another
executor, it was Paul
Ray Allen and another superstar. Don't steamroll. Garnett did all of Garnett. Did it all. Like he brought it all together.
Like, Garnett was a freaking superstar at the time. Like that's not really a hot take, but to say that Pierce played 10% in the championship is kind of
not 10% of the championship. I'm saying if you replace Garnett with another equivalent.
Well, you said Garnett played 80% of it.
I'm saying if you replace Garnett with another equivalent talent, they don't win. Pierce does not lead a team of 3 good players, 3 really good players to a title.
That's fine.
But that was
you could say that they needed a guy like Ray Allen too. How many guys hit some of the shots that Ray Allen hit in that run? So
Ray Allen was amazing. I think, but what I'm saying is Pierce gets put at the front of that for his longevity.
He does. Oh, he does because he's the captain.
That's KG's team.
Yeah, but this is exactly why Paul Pierce is this petty. Like this commentary, this narrative is like it's freaking never enough. I can never do enough because at the end of the day, it's always, oh, you got some help, or at the end of the day, it was, oh man, you were getting ready to walk out the city before these guys came, and it's just like, man, but
all of those things are true.
It was, but you know what?
The 80%.
They all put their egos aside for those years.
The 80%'s not fair. They all did what they had to do equally. All I'm saying is that to me is KG's team, but they call it Paul's team because he was here longer, and I don't think it was his team. That was KG's team.
Well, people look at offense.
It was Pierce's team because it was Pierce's team because he was the captain. He was the guy who's been here, done that. He kind of welcomed these guys in. He probably sacrificed the most because. I mean, let's be honest, he went from being the guy to just, one of the guys, and that was what was needed to win. Obviously no one's going to say, oh, like Pierce is the reason they won the championship. It was one of the most like obvious examples of, team basketball, basically. I mean, if you can go back and you can look at the Spurs, the Celtics, you can go look at the Pistons, like those were legitimate teams where they all kind of sacrificed and they all played their part. Yeah, you needed a lot of what Kevin Garnett gave you with the culture and the tenacity and the attitude. You definitely needed that, and that definitely carried over. And I think that inspired guys like Pierce to sort of step it up in different areas that maybe they were slacking a little bit. But Pierce is like his own guy. Like Pierce didn't need Garnett to be in the Hall of Fame. He still would have been a Hall of Famer in my opinion. He still would have been a Hall of Famer without KG. I think the championship validated his career and validated, everything he was working towards. But I mean, this guy was one of the most underrated or unheralded players in the last 20 years in the NBA. And yeah, he's got a chip on his shoulder. He can be kind of a jerk, and maybe that's one of the reasons why. But I'm pumped that he's got to have his time.
He was a B-level star, not an A-level star for most of it, though. I really do believe he's a good scorer.
This guy's a bummer, man.
No, good score.
He wasn't B-level. He was on some shitty teams, too.
Good scorer, bad team.
I think a great
there's a lot of
shooter.
those guys.
I think a great shooter, too, before that really mattered. Like, this was kind of a transition point, and, they had Allen, too, in this sense. That
you're forgetting. He was like the LeBron. Shooter. He was like the one guy. LeBron's actually, I even said that, like, Pierce is one of the hardest guys he's ever played against.
And his defense, defense on the perimeter was phenomenal. And then, it sort of happened after this point, in the later years there where he kind of became that, like, point forward when Rondo was going through injuries and stuff. But he always had some of that. Like, Pierce would fit so well in the league today when you think about what matters. He'd be playing some 4 defending guys at that position and, stretching the floor the way he did back then.
He got buried on bad teams. His most prolific years were on bad teams.
But he could carry the offense.
John is roasting Paul tonight. Dude, John was like, I'm going to roast Paul.
If you're going to compare him to guys in his era, like if you're going to compare him to Kobe, then yeah. Was he Kobe? No. Was he LeBron? No.
That's all I mean. Not quite. That's all I mean. Look, I mean, he got roasted.
That's top tier, and like
he
that's
got
like 1A and 1B.
Farewell tour by someone who said, "Dude, he's not friggin' Kobe." Like that's kind of what I'm talking about.
Of all people.
Yeah, and that's freaking Draymond Green, the biggest trash talker, probably one of the most overrated players in the history of the NBA, anyways.
But he's right.
But man, he wasn't asking.
I don't think he's right. I don't think
asking for a tour.
Yeah, Pierce wasn't asking for a tour. He was just announcing that this is.
Everyone knew it was all about coming back to Boston. That's all it was. Yeah. That was the tour.
Anyway,
that was
real quick. I want to switch gears. We gotta tell people
real quick. Yeah, you better pivot. You better pivot.
I don't want to switch gears.
We got a lot. We got
dirt on my guy's name over here.
Guys, we got a couple sponsors. We got to talk about.
Hey, John, we don't go after the guys you grew up with, like Heinsohn and Russell and those guys. Like, we're not going after them.
I could see that one coming miles down the road, and it was still funny.
I was like, how far back is he gonna go?
I didn't know if you knew even older players, Chuck Cooper.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna go like Casey Jones or something.
Oh man, we're not going after your guys, so don't go after ours.
All right, today's show powered by
Legends. Like Paul Pierce, a legend.
We're all wearing by the legend. Athlete-owned apparel brand popping up everywhere.
And I got a hot take after
this. All right, so we'll get to your hot take, guys.
Oh, this is my ninja hood.
Are we getting
We're just
through
showing
this?
everybody the works.
Yeah, man, just letting them know it's got pull strings.
Oh, I do like that. It's good.
Yeah. Something to think about.
Guys, this is why
it was raining. It was raining on my way home. You know what?
This is the perfect day for one of these.
Perfect day.
It's owned by athletes like Steve Nash, Matt Barnes, Baker Mayfield, NFL legend and local hero Willie McGinnis. We love Willie.
And see me running around in this too.
Former Celtic Marcus Morris Sr. High performance apparel, style, and comfort. So here's what you do.
He's new to the family.
How many of these dudes have a piece of this company, man? They're all making a cut, huh?
Larry Nance Jr.'s in there. Markeith, Noah Syndergaard,
Trailblazer,
Thor
Marlon
himself.
Humphrey. Yeah, it's a few.
They're just pouring money into this company. All right, let's do it.
So it's good stuff. So
maybe I'll toss my hat in the ring.
By the way, we're not joking. This is really comfortable stuff, and this is a really good deal. So Garden 20, you go to it's legends.com, promo code Garden 20. You get 20% off on your first order. So like order a ton.
I'm actually going to do that.
We got freebies,
Again.
and I'm still gonna order more stuff because it's awesome.
They want this one. That's what they're thinking.
Right.
I
We're
might
gonna
need
run a
that
poll
camo.
too. You like the dark blue? Jimmy's black. Joe Sway.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Is it off white?
Yeah, variety.
This way is the whole
No,
color.
this
Can't
is
go wrong with black.
This is
man.
pure white, right?
I like the white too.
And Bobby's camo.
Joe Sway's been legend since day one. He's probably got all the ones we're wearing.
No,
Yeah,
not
he's
yet.
got the whole thing. Joe Sway's a
I don't
partner,
have those.
actually.
That's a
So
new- that's a
honestly,
new
like
batch.
people are saying, no joke. People in the chat are saying they look nice, but they're pricey. Look, compared to pricey, no, even at their without the discount, you're not paying the Lululemon or the higher end like stuff that's the same
Nike's
quality.
going through the roof.
Stuff that's the same
Oh,
quality
yeah.
is
Price of
way
materials
more
are going
expensive.
through the roof right now, everybody.
Yes.
No, but I'll say this. This is the type of, it's expensive, or it might be expensive. I don't even know exactly, but you'd wear this so much where you'd make your money back. Like,
You're
you know what I mean?
literally-
Especially this time
I have
of
a
year.
formula in my head where it's like it needs to work. Like,
Yeah.
I won't buy something super expensive. I think I'm never going to wear it. I would wear this all the time. So it doesn't really matter what the cost. Like, a good pair of jeans might cost you $150, but if you wear them for 5 years, like, that's probably worth
Yeah.
it. Same with
With
And
the
sweatshirts.
plus,
discount.
Like,
it's hoodie season, you know. Just make sure
it is hoodie
make sure
season.
Make sure that significant other doesn't keep it though. You want to hold this one. You know?
That's what he says.
Hold
Yeah,
this
yeah,
one tight.
My
Hoodie
grandma,
season.
my grandma was raving about this earlier.
Significant other. There you go.
Steve Nash, Marcus Morris, Baker Mayfield, Bobby's grandma.
It's true.
They love it. So, anyway, let's move on to a couple different things we want to talk about, and we want to get
Hold
people.
on.
We know what
Hold on,
tonight
John.
is. You
John,
got another
real quick. One last thing. It's not really a hot
Go
take,
for
but
it.
let me ask you this though. If and then we always do this right with the if game, but if the Celtics win that second championship in 2010, I think your narrative on Paul Pierce would change drastically because he really had to put a lot of effort on that team because KG just wasn't himself after the 2009 injury, and he was running on his last leg, in that game.
If Rasheed Wallace had like any ounce of breath left, they might actually have that.
They needed that one. That's the one that kills.
With all this shit talking that Paul does, man, it would be times 10 if he had 2 rings.
First of all, it's an excellent point, and you're right. The narrative would be different. I just think it's unfair that KG, who the next year was playing even better, and that Celtics team was even better.
That team was,
that team was
that's good to your point.
That team could have won 70 games.
That's like when Brady went down with an ACL after they went 17 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And honestly, guys, I don't know if you guys disagree with me, but when's the last time you saw a championship team? Everyone talks about the whole hangover thing. Like, I've never seen them go right into the next season like nothing. Like it was nothing. They
were like 35-3. They were stomping people.
Yeah,
stomping.
It was insane.
It was insane, and so Pierce.
They were holding teams to like 76 points. It was crazy.
KG was never the same, and that's unfair because there was a couple prime years left there. That team should have won 3 straight. If
that
KG
is a great point in the whole Garnett Pierce comparison there, but when you think about offense defense, I think Pierce's role in the offense was just so much bigger than Garnett's. And
it was.
Both sides of the ball were important.
Paul still had his legs in that series, or a little bit left, and freaking Ron Artest hit that 3, man. I don't know. Well, Paul Gasol did a lot with the rebound and getting to the free throw line too. That was huge, but
I don't think you could draw up a more painful finals loss than that. Especially
Kobe's literally telling him like, no, like don't.
Oh, actually,
yes. He goes nuts.
2013, a couple years later, the Spurs. That one had to hurt more, but
the
way the Lakers collapsed late there.
So I do want to transition. We're going to rapid fire. We're going to do a couple things here. We're going to rapid fire rip through some Celtics questions that we believe they're still unanswered questions heading into the season. And we're going to do more robust training camp stuff and preview the season when we get a little closer. Again, we are a couple of weeks out here. But we want to rip through some questions. We have
before
a good
Tom
idea.
Brady takes the field, of course.
Yeah, we have a good idea what this team is and who they're going to be here. So let's rip through some questions, guys. Here, can Jason Tatum be an MVP candidate this year?
Yes, 100%. I think this is the year, guys. I think top 5, somewhere around there, maybe top 3. I think this is the year he averages 30 points, and that's going to put him in the conversation. And of course, depending on how the Celtics do, that's really on them. But I think this is the year he'll put his name in that conversation.
What's the definition of a candidate? How many?
Let's call it top 5.
Yeah, and voting at the end of the season, like Isaiah that year.
Isaiah was in that mix, but is Tatum in the conversation?
I'm gonna say he's probably outside of the top 5, but that doesn't mean he's not gonna have a good year. I just don't know if he's MVP yet.
Okay, Bobby.
That might be more to do with his success.
You got Embiid, you got Giannis. I think Curry will be in there. Jokic, obviously, again. He could be
Curry
5th.
Again. You think Curry?
Yeah,
again?
Curry's definitely in there.
Any sexy Jokic?
Jokic is definitely back in it. But I don't know. Durant, we'll see. Luka's the favorite again.
It's less about other good players.
Luka.
It's less about other good players, and it's more about Tatum in my
Lillard.
mind.
So Tatum in odds right now is outside the top 10 even.
He is outside
like
the top 10. This would be a big leap.
He's down there with Russ. I think he can be top 10. How's that?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. Like, I think he's probably outside the top 5.
Then it's not good enough. Then he's not.
Yeah, he should be. He should be top 10 at this point.
Then the answer is no. If he's not, if he's not top 5, he's not really in the MVP.
He didn't even make an All-NBA team this year. Now we're going to talk, is he going to be an MVP? I mean, you're a leapfrog. I know it is, but I'm giving you my answer. That's a pretty big one-year leapfrog.
Here's the questions, can he? I think he can because of the fact that the team that they have in place can be an upper tier team in the East. Like, if he has that kind of 30-point per game year, that bolsters this team up in like the top 3-4 of the conference, which is certainly feasible.
And that's a key, as Must31 puts it. If you're a top 2 team in the conference,
this is what it's going to take, right?
It's about the success of the team as much as it is Tatum. Yeah.
If they're let's be
not necessarily. If you finish top 4,
Joe Sway. The only way you could do it is if you do what Jokic did and have 27 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, something insane like that. And that's just not
be the greatest fantasy basketball player of all time.
Yeah. So Tatum's not quite there yet with the passing. And if he is, then he'll be in there. But I do see a pretty significant lead from Tatum coming this year. I mean, that's the one thing you can, I think, expect from him at this point is that he's going to come back stronger with more areas sealed up and things like that. So Kenny,
he has to be a legitimately unstoppable scorer. We can't have periods where we're like, Jason Tatum's just not. He has to be his bad games.
Half or something.
His bad games have to be 26 points. You know what I mean? Is like where his shot wasn't falling. Like he's got to be the killer best version of Jason Tatum has to show up way more frequently to get to that level. And the strength helps because he has to get to the line 12 times in order to get to that level.
Right.
All of that makes it. If he's there, that's what I mean. You get to the line 10, 12 times a game, he's going to average close to 30 because he's just – so those bad games have to be 24, 26 when it's just not dropping. He's got to be dropping a lot more 30s and 40s there because he has to be a problem all year. So we'll see. Jimmy, you were going to say something.
Just based off what one of the commenters said is just if they are a top 2-ish team in the league, Tatum's a huge reason, most likely the biggest reason behind it. So I would definitely agree that I'm sure he'd be in the conversation in that situation. Right. But I don't see the Celtics, because I just don't see the Celtics as a top 2 team. So if they completely blow away at my expectations, then I imagine so is Jason Tatum.
All right, that's fair. We're talking about Tatum. Well, Jaylen Brown has improved year over year. There are still people in our chat, people who follow the Celtics regularly, who think Jaylen Brown is as good right now as Jason Tatum, and you can make arguments for this case. Tatum still always is the default alpha when people talk about who the guy is on this team. Some people think Brown is actually already there or pretty close. We've seen a leap every year, and some years with Brown, we've even seen 2 leaps within a year. Set back this offseason because of the wrist injury. How much better can he come back and be? Can he make another leap? We've talked about it last year. For those guys to be successful, we used the preseason list as a barometer. Tatum was the 11th guy and Brown was 30. And we said if Tatum's a top 10 and Brown's a top 15 guy, then you've got 2 legit whatever. But if they're still floating in the 20-30 range, a lot of teams have a lot of talent out there. Celtics don't have enough ancillary talent to make up for these guys not being top 10, top 15 player. So could Brown make another leap into that like second team NBA conversation?
I think it depends on how you define the leap, because I can see him making a minor leap in the sense of what's best for the team, right? Because he has to he's got to tweak his game a bit in the sense of trying to fit in with these guys. And I'm not saying that in the same breath as, oh, Jason Tatum has to be the clear-cut number one, option, and we have to make that clear. No, I think he can be a number two option, or even a guy that gets hot in the fourth quarter. You let him keep cooking. But at the same time, he's got to sort of step his game up in a sense on the other side, on the defensive end. Good defending the better players in the NBA night after night, and also be able to contribute offensively. Because remember those games where he disappears sometimes when the Celtics need him, and it's like, oh well, I did my thing in the first half. I'm playing defense now. It's like we have to find a way, or Ime Udoka rather, has to find a way to get the best out of Jalen in a sense that's better for the team than what we saw last season.
Yeah, I think everything that's in place here and just what you hear from the new coach as well puts him in a really good position to make a leap of some sort. And I don't think you should base it off the points like Joe Sway said. I don't think there's a whole lot of room for him to score a ton more points because he got into the 20s last year. I think that's about where he's going to be just in terms of his volume and shots and all that kind of stuff. And we already know he was one of the most efficient high volume guys you could think of last year, like with the record breaking field goal game he had and all that kind of stuff. He was pretty remarkable last year as a scorer, but the defense slipped. You want to see the health be in a better place and the ball handling. Like, I love the way he can break down guys at this point on the dribble. I think that's a huge step that he's taken, but he needs to step into playmaking territory if he's going to actually earn some ball time here. And he'll have the chance to do it with Kemba gone. That's why I'm really excited about Brown this year. I saw such friction between Brown and Kemba's role on the team last year. If all three of those guys were healthy, one was going to get left to the side, and when you know it, Brown was in the corner again and again last year. I don't see any way that happens this year with Ime in charge and the stuff he's talked about.
Thought that was me.
No, it wasn't you for once. No, I would agree with you guys. I think there's definitely room for improvement. Absolutely. I mean, what are we talking about? He's still in his low 20s, and there's no reason to believe
he's got a ton of room to improve.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but he makes leaps every season.
Of course. I mean, I think this season could look a little different than last season. Last season, he came out guns blazing. We were like completely blown away. We're like, oh my God, this guy is taking another massive leap after the leap he just took in the bubble, and we were having the debate of like, is it Brown or is it Tatum? I think more people are kind of leaning Tatum right now, but I think Brown might come out of the gates a little bit slower because of the injury that we just mentioned and things like that, and acclimating to a new system, new coach, new teammates. So all that being said, I think the players that are around him might be better suited for him, like Bobby just mentioned with Kemba Walker being gone now and him being able to do a little bit more. He's improved the ball handling from where it was. Obviously he's down with that corner spot. I think his shooting could definitely improve. So for right there, I think that there's room to.
He's probably the second or third best shooter on this roster.
He was so efficient. He's bringing sexy back with the mid range. Like
he's the only one taking those.
I think the NBA pendulum's swinging back a little bit. That's my opinion. I
think it is too.
I think people are starting to realize that the reason that mid-range shot and those
everybody plays drop coverage. Yeah.
Yes. And exactly. So what are you going to do there? And beyond that, when you need buckets, sometimes that's the only way you're generating them is with those scorers who are getting into those spaces to get shots off.
Elbow jumper.
Other people can't get that shot. So while it isn't while yes, are you going to compare the percentages of a contested two with a good defender on you, the clock's running down, versus a wide open corner three? Like, no, that's insane. But that's not what it is. It's nobody on this team is getting a bucket except for the guy with the ball in his hands, and he's got to get where he can get to and rise up and take his shot. Tatum and Brown are both those types of guys, so they just got to play their game. Before we move on to the rest of the questions here, like I said, our cup runneth over with sponsors right now. So, guys, if you support our sponsors, it makes everything better for everybody here. So please do. We're not going to steer you wrong, and you really do get really cool benefits here with this stuff. So Raycon is another one, earbuds. Okay, if you go to hold on one second.
Buyraycon.com/garden.
Yep.
You receive 50% off your next purchase.
Yep. So whether you use them to pump up, wind down, workout, it's the new everyday earbuds. They look, they feel, they sound better than ever. It's an improved rubber oil look. They got the gel tips, perfect ear fit. We've gotten these. This is a really good product here. New sound profiles to make sure everything you're listening to sounds exactly the way you want it to. 8 hours of playtime, 32-hour battery life, built-in mic. Take your calls on this. Half the price of other premium audio brands. Look, this is one of those things like you got to have your wireless earbuds. This is a quality thing that you're spending literally half the money that you would on some of the other premium brands. Has a 45-day happiness guarantee, they call it. Happiness. You will be happy. You got 45 days, and if you're not, you can return it. So go to raycon.com/garden and save 15%. Buy raycon.com/garden. Save 15%. Go there today.
Toss on the headphones. It's like, put the sweatshirt on, toss the headphones in, and just kind of zone out for a bit.
Check it out. We're gonna
kind of getting into that time of year.
We want to rip through a couple more questions.
New albums.
Yep. Rip through a couple more questions. I know this one's a Jimmy Toscano special here. Dennis Schroeder.
He's gonna say Drake. Oh, never mind.
What about
How is
him?
he gonna fit? And are you worried at all, Jimmy Toscano? Because you are a little bit.
Me? I'm all about Dennis Schroeder. I'm all on the Dennis.
Who's worried? Bobby.
I'm worried.
That's Bobby.
I'm extremely worried. Yeah.
Bobby's the worry guy.
Extremely.
Extremely.
I think Schroeder's going to be fine.
All you hear is negative things.
You go first, Bob, since you're the cry.
Yeah.
You're the cry.
The
sky's falling. Yeah.
Out in Vegas when he signed, it's a lot of negativity around this guy. He's in a pretty low point, and I think the contract kind of speaks to that. You're in a market where there was a handful of point guards. I think he kind of got squeezed by the position a little bit. There was real concerns about how he ended the year with the Lakers, the whole vaccine situation, which again is going to be a big deal this year. The first question he's going to get in training camp is, did you take the vaccine? And so they were going to go again with that thing that we just talked about with Cam Newton. So there's going to be very important. Going to be very important questions going into the year because, again, we saw how COVID just engulfed the Celtics last year. Now, in terms of on the court, and if that stuff doesn't end up happening, I do kind of think he brings what they need to the table, a secondary facilitator at the point guard spot. He can defend, which is fitting the profile of what the team's going to do here. But is he going to want to take a lot of shots and sort of, prove it with that contract? I tend to think he's going to want to be fitting in a more stable situation and, contributing to winning here. Because, again, this is kind of his last shot to get a big deal and not be pigeonholed as a minimum mid-level guy here. So I love the signing. At that value, as Sherrod said over and over again that week, you can just cut him if something goes drastically wrong. But I do think there's concern in just introducing this to the room. This array of worries around him and his game and his situation off the court here. But I think you had to take it if you were the Celtics, and this is what I think Jimmy's going to get into, just because they really needed help at that position. The price was undeniable, and obviously he wanted to be here and take advantage of the opportunity that was here to some degree. So he was Sixth Man of the Year 2 years ago. I think it's a good risk, but there's certainly a risk here.
It's an unbelievable gift that they received, that they were able to get this guy. And if they're trying to build the best team, they play on the court. They need to all be big boys and adults and get along, and they don't have to be best friends. We know that, right, guys? We know that. They don't have to be best friends, but they need to be teammates. They need to support each other. They need to play for each other. And I think Schroeder fits because of his style of play. He's not a guy who's going to try to take 20 shots a game. He doesn't need 20 shots a game. I mean, he'll take a shot if you give it to him. But listen, if he's going to get under opponent's skin, I'm all for that. I mean, this is a guy that gets under everybody's skin. I don't want him to get under his teammates' skin. I don't think he will. I don't even know if these guys practice half as much as they used to. I don't know if they're around each other half as much as they used to. I don't know if they're going to be separated because of COVID.
If he doesn't get a vaccine, he's going to be on the other side of the bus.
He won't be. Yeah, he won't be able to bother anybody on his team. He's going to be in a different locker room. So, I mean, listen, it's in his best interest to be a good soldier and to go out there and play basketball and do what he does best, because he doesn't want people ragging on him for another contract that he's missed. He wants to prove that he's still worth more than what he took this year, and he did take a steep discount, and he took it for a reason. I think he took it for a reason. I think he took it because he thinks he can win with these guys, and he can show what he's good at, and if he can put together a good season, then he can sign a 3-4 year deal for let's call it 50 million, whatever it is, you know. So
It's because
I'm
he's
not
a
worried
Celtic,
about
Jimmy.
that. I'm
He's
not
a
worried about
Celtic.
that.
He's gotta wear 84, right?
Why?
For the 84 million.
For the 84 million.
Oh,
They passed up.
yeah, that's
I'm
true.
telling you. I'm telling you this, and I know some people are saying that this might be a little bit overhyped or whatever, but I really do genuinely think that he's a diehard Celtics fan at heart. Like whether it was maybe things didn't work out with the Lakers that just fit in with that narrative, but either way, I think he genuinely wants to be here. I don't think he thought it would be for under this circumstance, at least going into free agency. But playing for the Celtics means something, and I also think that without Kemba Walker on this team and Marcus Smart sliding into a more strictly playmaker role opens up more touches for him. You know, more opportunities to score. Whereas he's not, a second option on this team, but essentially could be a third option, at least down the stretch, especially in those clutch games. At the end of the day, he's trying to clean up that narrative of the rumors and the hype that he might be a bad teammate. And also, he's trying to get as close to the NBA Finals as he can because he knows that's going to also help his pockets in next summer in the negotiating, you know? So it all bodes well for the Celtics. Maybe there's some parts of the season where he tends to get a little selfish, but I also think he's going to care a lot about stacking up those assists and just looking overall like the ideal guy to have on both ends of the floor.
All right, switching gears. Another question: is Marcus Smart the answer at point guard?
What's the question?
In general, for this team, yes.
I think he has to be the answer. I mean, that's the answer. You don't have another answer. So, yeah, he's your point guard.
He is because you have no choice. But does he make them better?
It's all going to depend on if he changes his style of play. If Marcus Smart goes out there and plays the way he played, 2-3 years ago or even last year at stretches, then no, he won't be the answer. And I think he might get the hook. And the guy we just talked about might be playing his position a little bit more.
He just got the extension. I mean, he has to be at this point. If they're not going to make any moves down the line for a major player, I think they like what he brings to the position on lobs and vision and all that kind of stuff. I love who he is as a passer. And I think we've seen his best basketball in his career at this position. Point of attack defense, I think having him at that position against opposing point guards is going to be great. I know John doesn't love him against the shiftier guys, but overall, just relative to the league, I still think he's above average defender at that position. And over the years, whether it's been with Kyrie, Isaiah, all those different guards who struggled on defense, I've said this over and over again, they've really had some monster defensive lineups with Smart at the point guard when those other guys were out. So I think this is overdue. I think this is where he's most comfortable. I think this is the pedigree he had coming into this league, was playing this position and doing it well. And I'll just keep saying over and over again, I love his passing, and I think there's less an onus on him to score when you have a guy like Schroeder next to you, when you have guys on the wing and the Jays and stuff like that, and obviously a lob target in Rob. So there's secondary ball handlers on this roster. I mean, this isn't Rajon Rondo in 08 who's just going to be commanding the ball for 40 minutes a game. There's going to be a ton of distribution opportunities. They're going to need Smart to space the floor a little bit too. So the threes are going to keep flying to some degree, just based on what they have on this roster. But in terms of just pure passing, I love what he brings to that position. I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised.
Okay, the answer is a resounding yes. The last one we're going to talk about today, and there's more questions. We'll get to them. We're going to be back next week. What's Robert Williams' impact going to be this year as what we assume is going to be the wire-to-wire, as long as there's no injuries, unquestioned starter of this team? What?
You think?
I think it will be.
I'll ask you guys.
What will his impact be? I think it'll be pretty close to the impact that a meteor had on dinosaurs, if I'm being completely honest. I think that's the impact that we're going to see here. Huge Robert Williams guy. Love that they were able to lock him up. I know that was John's biggest fear, is that they were just going to have to dump him in a deal for a superstar player, whoever that might be. They didn't, at least not yet. So I'm glad to see him back. There were points last year. We said it on the show multiple times. It was so obvious that he was the most athletic guy on the court. He was doing things that Grant Williams couldn't dream of doing, in 100 years in his sleep. So, and not to shoot on Grant Williams. Everybody felt that way. I mean, there wasn't another player on the court that could jump as high as he was jumping to block a shot, run down the court, and then catch an alley-oop, all in like 3 steps. So I think he's going to have a huge impact. The only question I have is if he can stay on the court. The best ability is availability. So we'll find that out in time. But if he can, then they got to steal with the deal. If he can't, then it was a risk that didn't pay off.
I think he's a legitimate.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's legit. I mean, that stretch of games where he was, putting the team at a different level. I think we see more of that, and I think he becomes ultimately one of those pillars that could push this team to a, potential Eastern Conference Finals matchup. Best case scenario. It's all about his health at this point. Can he stay healthy? But if he's healthy, yes, absolutely, he will be he will put the impact on the floor compared to the last handful of big men that we've seen. I don't know what we talk about, Kevin Garnett maybe, or maybe somewhere around that level in the sense of just making that overall impact on both ends. I think he's up there. Like, I think it's legitimate for sure.
I do think that building the starting lineup is going to be something that matters. Ultimately, it usually does. Who you're going to put out there on the floor to start the game. I think that's going to be Ime's first big hurdle to overcome, and I do kind of think the easiest route to that is kind of starting Al and maybe shifting more minutes toward Rob in a secondary role. Because again, I think you have to play both those guys.
Williams. Bobby hates Time Lord. All last season, he said the same thing. He was like,
"No, you're gonna have some nights for Al and Rob start. I would assume, and maybe that's the direction you end up going with a complementary, pair of centers and Bruno and Cantor behind them, some Grant, but." If you're only starting one center, I think there's a chance you start Horford, go to Rob in a secondary lineup with a guy like Pritchard, who he's worked well with in the past, and play Rob more minutes over the course of the game. Just so Al's name's in that starting lineup, you kind of give that nod to him and his role in the room.
Just so Al's name is in the start. What do you mean?
Listen, we know these things. We know these things matter. You're going to bring Al at $27 million off the bench?
Yeah. So fast.
For a season. For one season,
so fast, Bobby. What are you trying to do? Do these guys need to hold hands and sing "Kumbaya" to get them to feel good?
Listen, we know it's kind of nonsense. It doesn't really matter who starts, but it always ends up mattering some way or another.
I don't know if it does.
Actually called in that lineup. If Rob's out there and that works, and Al's willing to take a seat and rest and do all the stuff you need to do at that stage in your career, great. Because
Al's been taking his seat for 3 seasons.
Yeah, so maybe it works out that way. I'm just interested to see how they navigate a younger guy like Rob and a veteran who obviously is going to be a big part of this team, and Al returning and having pedigree and things like that, and obviously trying to instill his voice in the room again. I don't know. I can't picture in my mind for some reason Al coming off the bench. I guess I just need to kind of recalibrate where he's at.
Probably because you wake up to his jersey staring at you every morning.
That's a good point.
No, but
has a little bit to do with it.
Listen, at some point you do have to get the cohesion going between Rob and the starting lineup. And we saw that with Smart in the past too. Smart wouldn't be starting games. He'd close with the key guys on the team. They figured out ways to rotate and get those guys enough minutes together. Because John, Jimmy, all of you who talked about Rob's impact last year were right. They were at their best when he was on the floor with the Jays, with Smart, with all the guys that mattered. They went on their best run with him on the floor last year. He's the only guy on this team who's going to be able to raise their ceiling. I just think that whole starting thing is just going to be a little complicated there. And
I think Al Horford's an adult. Al Horford's an adult. He's not 23-year-old hot shot player who's trying to be in the starting lineup. I think he knows the situation. He's still going to get the same paycheck whether he's starting or not. And they brought him in here. I think part of the reason they brought him in here was to I don't know, maybe be a locker room guy. So why the hell would he all of a sudden be a bad apple just because he's not hearing his name, screamed out at the beginning of the game by the arena announcer?
Who are you gonna start then, Jimmy?
It's not my. It's. I mean, you want to go over?
No, if you had to throw your 5 out there, who would it be?
Well, Marcus, Jalen, Tatum.
Then the last question's kind of, do you go Al at the 4 or Richardson at the 2?
It all comes down to double big with Al at the 4 or Richardson. That's the whole
question. But so if Allen's up starting, that's fine. If Allen's up starting, that's fine. But I'm not saying he should start in place of Rob Williams because of you don't want to ruffle any feathers. So if Allen's up starting, that's fine. But so should Rob Williams.
That might be the way to do it. just to start games.
We will see. We've been going about an hour. We're going to wrap it up tonight. We're going to let you guys watch some football, but we're going to be back next week.
I got to see my guy.
Blake will be with us. Rob Williams is unquestionably a starter, so I don't even know why we're having this ridiculous conversation.
I don't know. We'll see.
Stevens is not the coach anymore. Rob will be starting.
Yeah. Once again, shout out.
Was that the first interview question? Will you start, Rob?
Yeah. Shout out once again to our sponsors. Again, go to buyraycon.com/garden. Receive 15% off on your next purchase. Once again, buyraycon.com/garden. 15% off your next purchase. And of course, Legends Brand. We've got this fine swag. We're very happy with it. Legendsbrand.com. Use the code GARDEN20. Save 20% off your first order. Bobby's popping the hood. He loves it.
Yes, sir.
Right there.
I like how it comes up on your neck a little. It gives you a little turtleneck action too.
Hawthorne.
Keeps
like
you
that right there.
Hoodie Bob.
Stays there. So we're gonna do it. Go get your hoodies. Go get your swag. Go get your.
Out.
Go rep.
You're gonna need
Go watch Paul this weekend.
Yeah, go watch Paul.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Presented by KG.
Yep, and that's it for us again. Thank you very much for watching Garden Report. We will be back next